Being none?
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Is it free?
Mr. Chair, when I'm done, it is free and it's not an April Fool's joke either.
Okay, go ahead.
First thing, I'm very pleased to announce that the town of Uxbridge, in the PCP program, which is the Partners for Climate
Gray, and I'm a 73-year resident of Durham Region. And I've lived at 3495 Anderson Street for the past 49 years. My question to the council is, why are you breaching my 27-year verbal contract with regards to free water? My contract was between Costain Estates and the municipality and myself. The contract was made necessary because in 1988, the winter of 1988, I started having well problems. Because of the excavation around my property, I phoned the mayor, then Mayor Whitby, Bob Addersley, and my problem was, he sent out a couple of engineers to check out my well, and they agreed that the water trouble was caused by them, and they would resolve the problem with free water delivered every other day by a truck to my well. And I agreed. The problem was fixed. And about 6 months later, Mayor Addersley phoned me and said the system is getting expensive, and since the water department were installing water to a new home east of my property, he would like get permission to run a pipe through my backyard and drill a hole through my basement and disconnect my pressure system at no charge, and I would get free water. I gave him permission, and the next day, 2 men came and done the work. My wife was home that day. By the time I got home that evening from work, everything was a go. I had no problem till the summer of 2014, when the water was cut off for a couple of days. Then I received a letter and invoice for $831.47, rewatered and sanitary sewer account from a Mr. D. Siciliano. I phoned him and explained that I am not connected to the sanitary sewers as I have a septic tank and that I received free water. He then starts phoning me to pay him. On October the 16th, I asked Donnie Mitchell to get this man off my back. And then in January 2015, Mr. Siciliano starts up again. He does not understand the word free. He asked me to come to a meeting with Mr. Clapp to set up a time. But he sets up a time, but Mr. Clapp had to cancel out because he was sick. The following week, we have a meeting at regional headquarters, and the meeting does not go very well. He doesn't understand free water or the agreement among gentlemen. I then receive a letter dated January the 27th, 2015 from Mr. Clapp stating the water was installed by the developer, and this has been the trouble. So this is my problem. Why are you taking my agreement for the free water away from me? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. Questions to Mr. Gray? Councillor Bellinger?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you to Mr. Gray. First off, thanks very much for your letter. I have some questions for you. When the water was being brought into your well every other day, who brought the water in?
It was a water truck, I think, from an outside provider.
Do you remember, if it came for 6 months, do you remember the name on the side of the truck?
I really can't. I think it might have been McGuire's.
Okay. When they installed the pipe, were you given any paperwork or was there anything discussed about a water meter?
Well, I was told that there would be no water meter. That's why they were coming in the back.
Okay. What, in your conversation with whoever, what is the duration, the period of time? How long did they say that you would receive free water?
Well, that was never discussed. I presume they didn't expect me to still be living there. You know, there's been subdivisions built around me, and I have been there for, this is 27 years ago.
Okay. Has your well been capped?
No, the well, they just disconnected the pressure system. It actually still is in the basement, but it dried up. So I have never even looked in it. It's just still there as a vacant well.
I had problems, sir, trying to establish who the agreement was with. Was it the region? Was it the former mayor? Or was it the developer? Or was it all three?
Well, I'm under the impression it was with all three. The mayor, who was regional councillor at the time, he'd be representing the town of Whitby and the region, and the Coscan people who did the work.
Okay, you've answered my question.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you very much, Mr. Gray.
You're welcome.
Ms. McConkey?
Good morning. Last month,
I think you have his handout and you have his presentation of Councillor Ballinger's questions. So it gives the clear background of what went on here. But the other document you really have to have a good look at was in the handout today. And that handout makes it clear that this water connections, information on this water connection was delivered to the region of Durham in June of 1988. So the region of Durham was fully apprised of the intention to connect this property to water, to regional water in 1988, as Mr. Gray says. So this document, which seems to be the only document around, doesn't surprise me at all. I would actually be a bit alarmed if 27 years later we had a big paper chain on every water service connection in the region of Durham. But this document is fully consistent with what happened here, which is what Mr. Gray describes, which is that there was a water problem. He approached his local representative, representing both the region and the town, and from there, the powers that be took over. At their request, they dumped water in the well. That wasn't fixing it. So at their request, and by their I mean our request, because they were our predecessors, at the request of a representative of the council of the region of Durham, the proposal was made, well, just take free water because filling your well is costing us too much money. So he said, okay. And someone took care of it. And the situation has gone on forever. And again, the region was told. 27 years later, it happens to come up. I don't fault staff one iota for bringing this to us. This is a very, very old, historic, unusual situation. But it's not, I don't think it's for us today to decide if we think it was a good deal or a bad deal, or if we think it's gone on long enough or not. We just have to decide if we believe there was an agreement reached at that time, and that from this resident's perspective, that he was told by his elected representative that an agreement had been reached, and then all these official people, engineers, whatever, put that agreement in place. Are we going to continue to honor our side of it, or are we not? That's really all we have to decide today. So I will leave that with you.
Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question through you to the committee. Somewhere I read in the report that part of this deal was to run a pipe through this gentleman's property. Is that, could you clarify that?
Mr. Clark?
Yes, excuse me, the connection was made by the developer to the, I'm going to guess the north, but in any event, one of the developers that abutted this property.
They took
So
a
it
shortcut
was
through his property to the
Well,
developer.
it was the connection.
Speak into the mic or speak
I'm
up.
sorry. It was the connection that was made by the developer through the back part of his property, which is may or may not be unusual, but there's no question a connection was made by the developer.
So that connection enabled the development to proceed, obviously.
Effectively, it's really the region does have a well interference policy, and there's no question in that policy that this customer, Mr. Gray's property, or Mr. Gray would receive free connection and free frontage. And that's a long-standing policy on the books. What did not happen was the paperwork, and which I said to committee, it's one of those things that fell through the cracks. The paperwork did not get